Let me tell you the really scary and crazy truth about Georgia's fleeing and eluding law. And before you say I would never flee or elude from the cops, people sometimes do it by accident. The law says that if you willfully refuse to pull your car over when you've been given an audible or visual signal by a cop in uniform driving a marked police car, then you have committed fleeing and eluding. The problem is sometimes people just don't see the cops at first, but the cops think you did see them or you did hear the siren or the blue lights. And so your failure to pull over right away can be considered fleeing and eluding. Here's where it gets really scary. A misdemeanor fleeing and eluding still requires 30 days serve time in jail. Can't be suspended, can't be put on probation for those 30 days, and it requires a $1,000 fine. Even if the judge loves you and thinks you're a great person, they still have to sentence you to that serve time and that fine. If it's your second conviction in 10 years, you end up with 90 days in jail that you have to do and a $2,500 minimum fine that you have to pay. Where it gets even scarier is when it gets up to felony fleeing and eluding. That's the same description of fleeing and eluding that I just gave you, but then other things are added on top of that in terms of the facts of the case. There's a bunch of different ones listed in the statute, but the thing that worries me most is one of those is if you are doing 20 miles over the speed limit when this alleged willful failure to pull over happens. So imagine if you're doing 75 on the highway in a 55 and this happens, you've automatically, in their eyes, committed felony fleeing and eluding. The other section of the statute that worries me for folks is if they say that you're driving in a manner that could put the public at risk of serious injury. That doesn't mean someone has to have a serious injury, just that the way you were driving could have caused a serious injury. And obviously that's really fuzzy on, how people define what could have caused a serious injury. Felony fleeing and eluding carries a minimum of 1 year in jail and a maximum of 10 years in jail. Again, can't be put on probation. Judge can't decide, I like you, I'm not going to make you go to jail. There is no probation for felony fleeing and eluding. It is a minimum of 1 year in prison. So, felony fleeing and eluding, misdemeanor fleeing and eluding, both of them require mandatory jail time, and they can happen to people by accident if they don't realize that the police are trying to pull them over. They didn't look in their rearview mirror, the radio's up too loud. There's a lot of different options for that. So please, if you are charged with felony fleeing and eluding, get a lawyer, or misdemeanor fleeing and eluding, get a lawyer right away.